how do you think the NBA handled the whole Kyrie situation when he came out with these, blatantly anti-Semitic statements? And do you think they handled it? I'm asking you as somebody who has a real connection with the NBA. Your dad played for them, and you yourself, professional basketball player. Do you think they handled that better? Do you think they could have done something different? They still could. And just I'm curious, just in general, in the world of sports, which as on some level should not get political. It should just be sports. But I don't know. Do you think they should venture into these areas, or they should be doing more?
So the first thing I'll say about that is the Kyrie Irving situation for me personally was terribly upsetting, right? Because he tweeted this link to this highly anti-Semitic book, movie, and there that's dangerous. That's destructive, right? For those views to be shared with millions of people, and as we said, not all of them are going to believe it, but many will.
Yeah.
And so for me, I lost sleep over that. I talked to my grandma about it. Again, 98 next month, Holocaust survivor. I said, what, I call her Anyu, which means mother in Hungarian. I said, Anyu,
Mm,
what do you think of this? And she just shook her head. She had her family killed for people saying things about Jews, thinking things about Jews, right? So anytime those things are spread, particularly at such a big scale, it's terribly upsetting for me, right? And this is our game. This is basketball. To your question, I have an extraordinary amount of respect for the NBA, how they handle things, how they're always on the front lines of social justice, doing what's right, standing up for people who aren't being treated fairly. So I think a true leader in this space. This is a complicated situation, and they acknowledge that they tried their best to discipline and to make good and give Kyrie Irving opportunities.
hmm
So I am actually less focused on how the league responded and how the team responded because I have such great confidence in what they've done to date with really important issues like this. What upset me about this situation is that there wasn't one current NBA player who proactively spoke up against this.
mm,
And the players have also been great speaking up and being a force for good in society, and that it's wonderful. And my grandparents always shared the message of we need to stand up for ourselves, but we also need to stand up for others. We need to have allies and we need to be allies, right? Because when people aren't treated fairly, regardless of their religion, their skin color, their beliefs, whatever it is, if people aren't being treated fairly, it's not okay. And so you need to stand up for that, whether it's you or someone else. Because my grandma says to this day, there was a time where we really needed voices and there weren't
yeah.
enough of them.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened. And so for me, to not hear the players speak out against this and kind of come, stand on the side of Jewish people around the world who were scared, right? There were threats to preschools in Jewish preschools in New Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah.
My nephew goes to a Jewish preschool in New Jersey, right? So there are families who are scared because of, and that's not just because of Kyrie Irving or Kanye West or these people
No.
who said it, but
No.
it
But
certainly doesn't help, right? It doesn't help to spread these
right.
messages. So that's where kind of my frustration, maybe some anger, maybe some fear came from with that situation. Was that these really destructive views are being spread, and the silence for me was deafening.
Yeah, it's a little like when I was listening to at the commencement, at the CUNY Law School, just like everybody clapping, nobody. Why do you think nobody else from the NBA, forget the NBA as an institution? I think you're making an excellent point. Where were the other players? Are they? Did they agree, or they don't want to get involved? I mean, if these kind of comments were made by a Jewish person about a black person, I would imagine you'd have tons of Jewish celebrities, other Jewish athletes, if there's not as many of us, um, condemning it and saying that's not who we are, that's not what we believe. Um, that's a little distressing, no?
It's certainly upsetting, and I don't want to speculate because it's hard to know. It's hard to know why people make the decisions they do and why there weren't more voices at that point in time. But I just look at the data, right? You just, and again, it's
Yeah,
injustice, it's intolerance. You just want to see allyship. You want to see people speaking against that, and I didn't see a lot of that, and that's what was distressing. I don't know why.
I mean, it seems like there's some sort of breakdown in the black Jewish relations. I love what Dumasani Washington is doing. He was a guest on this podcast. He's the founder of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, and he was very critical of the NBA for the way they handle the whole situation. Um, and he's a great black leader. Um, I don't. It seems like we're missing something. We're not. They're just there's a deafening silence, and I can't in a million years believe that if the same situation were reversed and there was some prominent Jewish person who made a nasty comment about black people that we would be all over it. We would be condemning it left and right, and it's just quiet. I really think I don't know what the solution is. I just think it's important for us to be aware, and I appreciate you sharing that. Forget the NBA, where are the other players? Um,
Yeah, and again, like that was part of the situation that I looked at, and but there are a lot of not all NBA players are black or white or
right?
there's a
No, no, no.
variety, right? So
Of course. It didn't have to be just black players. Anyone in the
it
NBA.
was any players, right? And
But
there's such
but because it's made by someone of who is black, then I guess that's kind of what we're looking for a little, you know?
for me, I just want to see allyship wherever
Yeah,
it comes from, right? Instead,
100%.
and just standing up when things are hateful, dangerous, and the themes that were in that movie that Kyrie Irving tweeted, right? The Holocaust didn't happen, and Jews are the devil, and things that are so outrageous, right? That's not a hard thing to stand against, and so
No,
you just like to see advocacy, and there's great precedent for the black community, the Jewish community working together, helping each other, right? Both communities know what it's like to be persecuted, to not have equal rights
yeah,
in situations. And so you just always want to see love being spread, bridges being built. And there are so many people in the black community who advocate for the Jewish community and vice versa, right? So there is a lot of
yeah.
that
No, there were
solidarity and
people,
brotherhood.
and there were many people from the. I don't mean to misrepresent. There were many people from the black community who spoke out against his terribly anti-Semitic statements. I'm just focusing because of what you said about the players. Yeah,
Yeah. I think whenever people aren't being treated fairly, we should all speak up against it, right? No matter what the person looks like or thinks or feels or who they love or what they love. That's our obligation. That's humanity's obligation. Again, there's precedent. We've seen what's happened over history. If we're talking about my family, it's the Holocaust. That, right? We see what
yeah,
hatred can lead to, but there are other people who look different than me, who think different than me, whose families have been through terrible things too, right? So it can happen. And we all need to speak up against that.
do you think there are not enough Jews in the end, like just connected? Like we're not connected to each other. I mean, I'm trying to make some sort of rational sense for. I don't want to say that it's coming from anti-Semitism. I don't know. I'm asking sincerely. Do you think there's just not enough inroads being made between athletes in the NBA and Jews? Um, and again, I'm
I
not talking
think
about the NBA as an institution. I'm talking about the players because that's who you mentioned. That's who you said was disturbing. That nobody said anything.
right. In that particular situation, we can extrapolate it, right? Because if you look at the data around education around the Holocaust and how much do millennials know about the Holocaust, it's really horrifying how little people know about it. So it's just an issue in society, and I think it does always, for me, relate back to education and knowledge and share. And that's one thing I'm proud
Yeah,
of my book, right? Because my family has this interesting basketball story, but it's also a Holocaust story, so it's a little
yeah,
more accessible. So
yeah,
I've gotten a lot of feedback from people actually all over the world about, oh, my nephew read your book actually, and now they know about the Holocaust, right? So it's how do we share stories and how do we share information and understand each other better, right? So again, I can't speculate about the presence of Jewish people in sports or in this community or that community. I just
I'm
think,
just assuming. I'm just assuming if there were more points of connection between, athletes, whether they're African American, black or not, and Jews, they would be maybe more understanding. There's often a lot of ignorance, and what that breeds, nothing good comes out of ignorance as a result of just not being connected sufficiently.
yeah,
Uh,
listen, the more we understand each other, the better. And it goes both ways, right? For us to understand different cultures, for different cultures to understand our culture,
yeah.
that's always there. That's always a powerful thing, is that understanding and that knowledge.